taking photos of a complete stranger is kind of intimidating to a lot of photographers, and it's completely understandable why. You're bringing yourself into someone else's life and kind of interjecting yourself and saying, I want to take your portrait, and with the fear of denial and the fear of rejection and just the potential of all the things that could go wrong, there's a lot of reasons why people are afraid to do it and don't want to take portraits of strangers. But I found through my travels, both in the air and on the ground on road trips, that there are some really interesting people out there, and as a photographer, it's my duty to capture those people. And if I don't take the risks, if I don't go up and face the potential for rejection, I could miss an opportunity to create a really awesome frame with this person just existing. And it's something I really pride myself in, taking photos of complete strangers, and something that I have a lot of fun, and I've met some really great friends in the process doing so. The first stranger I took a portrait of was in Seattle. I was traveling there with a friend, and I saw this homeless man with a red beard and red hair, and he was up against a blue wall, and it just looked too perfect to go without being photographed. So I bit my tongue, went up to him, and asked if I could take a portrait of him, and if I gave him $5. He agreed, and I created a frame that to this day is something that I keep in my portfolio, because it's a pretty cool image, and with his hair and his facial expression, you can tell this guy's definitely seen a lot. And once I took this photo, I was pretty much hooked, and I continuously, everywhere I go, bring my camera with me, and I'm always looking for interesting facial expressions, interesting characters, and just anything that I feel needs to be photographed and kept a little chunk of history, a little photographic evidence of its existence, I guess. Creating these images with this cowboy, I used the same formula I use for creating pretty much all of the other photos I take with strangers, and it basically involves the idea, the approach, the actual creation of the images, and the nice clean getaway. And so I'll go over with you the kind of theory behind creating photos with a stranger, my style of doing it. So it starts with the idea. Let's say you're driving down the street, you see an interesting character on a bike. Cool shirt, cool eyes, nice beard, cool hat going on, let's say. You want to photograph him. First of all, you need to have an idea. You need some inspiration, you need some direction to go with the photographs, You can't go up to him and not have anything in your head. You have to have the idea in your head prior to taking the photographs. Before you even stop the car, you need to say, I want to take a photo of him doing this. You have to envision it before you actually commit to stopping this person's time, taking time out of this person's day to take their photograph. You basically have to be sure of what you're going to do before you do it. Lay out the composition in your head, lay out the background in your head, lay out what the subject's going to be doing, if they're going to be engaged or not engaged. Also have some ideas on what to talk to them about. Kind of study them if you can, if you have the time to. So you've got your idea, you know exactly what you want to photograph and how you're going to go about doing it. Now it's time for the second step, which is the approach. You need to go to your subject or the stranger and basically introduce yourself, be friendly to him and not too pushy. But you also need to be very confident, and confident not just in your abilities but also just as your personality as a whole. You need to go and introduce yourself, mention what you're doing, why you're interested in taking the photograph, and what its use is going to be. A quick example of this is something I use all the time. Hi, my name is Jimmy Hickey, and I'm a photographer. I love taking portraits of interesting people, and you fit exactly what I like to take photos of. I really like that beard you have, and you have just what looks to be an awesome personality, and I'd love to talk with you and take your portrait for a few minutes. with a little approach like that, very few people will deny you, and when they do deny you, you need to say, all right, I understand, I hope you make yourself a great day, and leave it at that. Never be pushy, never force someone to take their photograph if they do not want it to be taken. But it is important to display exactly what the photograph is for. Like just say, oh, it's just going to my portfolio, I'm a hobbyist, I love taking photos of people. I would say the approach is definitely the most intimidating part of the entire process of taking photographs of a stranger. You're meeting someone you've never met before and trying to get them to do something that they had no intention of doing prior to meeting you. And it is difficult to get used to it. It really does take a little bit of time and energy, but if you're devoted to being able to photograph strangers and interesting people you meet in your walking through life, being able to master the approach is crucial to this process. And if you give it the time and energy it deserves, you will be able to get through it. The best way is just practice, 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 practice. Even someone you don't think looks interesting, go up to them and ask if you can take their photograph. Yeah, obviously people are going to say no, but you have to learn to deal with it. You have to learn to accept it and basically grow from it. Basically learn from every experience. Learn, okay, I messed up over these words, I needed to say this instead. And over time, you're kind of come up with a good formula for approaching people and getting them to say yes to you, letting them take your portraits. So you've had the idea, you've already approached them, and they said, yes, you can take my photograph. From here, it comes down to the most important and the most enjoyable part, conversating with your subject and creating a strong image. The most important thing you can do as a photographer is make the subject feel comfortable. Make the subject feel like you've been friends with them for years and that you're not a complete stranger who came out of the blue to ask them to take their portrait. When the subject is comfortable in the photograph, the viewers can tell, the photographer can tell, and the subject can tell. And it creates a good image when the subject is at ease, feels comfortable in front of you, and it's just looking natural. A subject who is not comfortable in front of the camera is gonna look, what's a good word for it? They're gonna look bad. It's not a good situation having a subject that's uncomfortable, and it's the most important thing as a photographer to keep the subject at ease, to conversate with them. Get them thinking about other things that make them happy. Get them thinking about the future, the past, whatever it is. Talk with them. Get to know them. Ask them questions. People love to talk about themselves, and you'll find out as you meet more people, they love to talk about themselves. So have them talk about themselves. Ask them questions. And you'll see as you conversate, they'll open up more and more, which is important to spend the first 2/3 of the shoot simply looking for what the best way to photograph them is. While you're talking with them, be shooting, have the camera in your hands, bring it up, ask them about whatever, bring the camera up, take a couple photos, look for certain details, look for certain facial expressions they have, try to figure out if you want them laughing, if you want them smiling, staring at the camera, staring off into the distance, how do you want them posed. Pay attention to how they look. Pay attention to the background, the foreground, everything in between, and especially the subject's emotions and just what you can do to make the best image possible. And this of course while you're talking with them. It's kind of multitasking, but as you do a lot of it, you'll get better at it and you'll definitely improve as time goes on. So just talk with them, make them feel comfortable in front of the camera, and do your job as a photographer to figure out how to make the best photograph possible. Once you have an idea to capture your subject in the best way possible, it is time to act on that. And don't be afraid to butt in and say, oh, okay, so could you just stare at the camera real quick, just look right here, and just try to pierce the camera with your eyes. Just look right here. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Take the photograph. That simple, and that's actually what a lot of images that are creating. I love, when people's eyes are piercing the camera, but I also love images where the subject is laid back and laughing at the camera, laughing about something we're talking about, enjoying life, being happy. And it's up to you as the photographer to decide how you want to, portray your subject and what best represents them as a person. And it's important to try to represent that in the photographs and not just display how you envision them, but how they really are and who, what represents them. And, by doing that, you really capture the person in their true essence. And by capturing a person in their true essence, you're actually, doing something that's pretty amazing. You have someone who 5-10 minutes ago was a complete stranger, and here you are capturing them in a way that needed to be done. You just created a shot of a complete stranger that you're proud of. And from there, it's pretty simple. It's just time for the exit. You shake their hand, you thank them for their time. If they're a homeless person or someone requesting money for the shoot, give them whatever they request. Be sure to give them your business card, your phone number, your name, your website, any way so they can contact you to actually get the photograph. So be sure to include that, yes, because I took this photo, you can have it for personal use or anything like that. I've met a couple interesting people who have actually said they wanted to use the photograph for a book that they're writing in the future, and really excited to see where that goes. So you really never know, where it can go from. It can turn into a friendship. I've been in touch with someone I took a photo of 2 years ago, and to this day we still, talk regularly. And I've met some really interesting people, and I've met some people I know that I'll never see again the rest of my life. But it's a pretty fascinating thing that you can not know someone at all to 10 minutes later feeling like you're friends with them and have a beautiful photograph to show from it. And I've barely scratched the surface on how awesome the world of photographing strangers can be, and it's something that I am continually fascinated by and inspired to want to get out there and create more images of people that I encounter in my everyday life. There's 7 billion of us and counting, and you're pretty darn sure there's a lot of interesting people out there who need their photographs taken. And I view it as my job as a photographer to photograph as many of these interesting souls as I can. So, that's pretty much it. I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I hope you found it informative and maybe a little enjoyable. I know I've spent a lot of time trying to create this darn thing. I don't know if you noticed, but the daylight has definitely been lowered a lot since this creation since we started filming this. A lot of interesting, distracting things going on outside my window, so it's been kind of tough. But yeah, so thank you very much. I hope you found this informative, and I hope you make yourself a great week.